From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those who champion market growth and anchor the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook podcast. I'm Mike Maxson. That's Brandon Gray. We're going to talk some year-end planning and forecasting today. Something y'all probably starting to take a look at here for 2025. Over the years, Brandon, we've done a lot of this, with our clients through strategy sessions, financial sessions, just the talking through their budgets, what they're doing. And I think now more than ever, especially with the way things have been going, it's really picked up in terms of going, hey, give us some more guidance on this. And so why don't you kick us off and just go through, some of the things we've been talking through with clients, your thoughts on it, and go from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the first thing is, what's the difference between a forecast and a budget? So as Greg Crabtree loves to say, budget is a license to spend. So if you give your team a budget, you can guarantee they're going to spend all of it because it's really easy to spend other people's money. Versus a forecast is a dynamic plan, and it's based upon if we achieve a certain outcome, then certain spends may take place. So there's subtle difference between the two, but I think, if you got a team that's kind of looking to go, hey, what's my budget going to be next year for people or marketing or capital improvements? Well, it depends. So kind of keep that in mind.
Now, Brandon, don't you think, real quick though, let me just hop in here with this on the devil's advocate side. There's some people that need to do a budget for things, right? They might have crews and stuff like that they got to put out there. Hey, don't be just wildly spending everywhere. Almost put some controls around it, right? Where they
up down, yeah. So the thing that gets you called is that you give a budget, you set it and forget it. And so it's got to be dynamic.
Right.
Hey, we got to have some kind of plan. So for the next 3 months, here's what you got to work with. And if it's something that's going to require an investment beyond that 3 months that you have to make today, then the person who is advocating for that need needs to come to you with a great plan of how that's going to generate a return on investment. So that'll kind of make their head spin the first time you say, well, they're just wanting a yes or no. And you come to them with, well, build me a case why I should make this investment. So,
yeah, I know some of my clients, especially the ones that are really growing, and we're getting, sometimes when you're a $3 million business, you sort of have an idea of what's being spent. Now you take all this into your $20 million business, $30 million business, and so forth. You have no idea sometimes what the marketing department's spending over there, or the administrative department's spending. And, what, at least some of the things I've done is, hey, build me out a budget. Like, we're obviously forecasting with the owner, forecasting with the financial team to really look at, hey, what does this year look like, how it's going to play out based on growth, and what could the potential spends at the end of the year be by the end of the year. And then sort of what does that marketing team have planned right now? What does that budget look like based on right now for 2025, what they would like to do, and sort of how it aligns with maybe the overall thinking of the business?
Yeah, just make sure it gets back to return on investment.
Return,
but it's kind of like, we want to do this, this, and this. Okay, what can I expect in return?
Right.
That's a little bit of a different animal. So, as you look at 2025, though, so I think we can all agree that the economic conditions we're in right now are not the best. Hopefully for 2025, it does improve a little bit. We should be in an environment where rates are coming down. Typically, that means that activity should start to increase a little. So that's great. But when it comes to planning for 2025, you need to have a plan, whether or not you put it in your desk drawer and never look at it again, or it becomes the Bible that you live by. You need to have a plan that ensures that you're going to be profitable at your current level of activity. And when I say current level, you can look at the past year, you can look at the past 3 months, you can look at the rolling 12 trend, whatever you want to choose there based on kind of what your outlook is. But as you put together that plan, if you're not profitable with where you have, you're starting off on the wrong foot. If the plan is we're going to grow by 10% this year, and then that's going to generate profit, you're probably setting yourself up for a real challenge. So I'm going to make sure everybody first understands, let's make sure that we have a plan that will get us profitable to where we are today at revenue and gross margin levels. So that's the first thing. The second thing as you're looking at planning for 2025 is you got to look at wage increases. So a lot of times we'll go through a plan with folks and then they'll kind of come in at the end and go, oh, we got to give raises. Okay. Well, what do you need to plan on? Well, right now, and this can vary. So, depending upon the role, depending upon where you're at, depending upon specifically what they're doing, how demand that position is, wages are only moving by about 3 to 5% right now. That's the most common range that we see as we look at salary survey changes. And as we discuss in real time with our clients, hey, you're bringing people in from outside the company, similar skill set, similar role. How much of an increase did you have to make to get that person?
Hey, and also keep in mind too, is that foreign labor wages are inflating at a greater rate than U.S. wages right now. So keep that in mind too, that you are going to see some move up there in those wage numbers as well if you're utilizing any sort of overseas labor.
Right. So that's one cost to keep in mind. The second is, what are all of my other operating expenses likely to change by? So assuming that you do not have an increase in activity, you're probably looking at 6 to 8%, somewhere in that general neighborhood. If you increase activity, many of those costs are tied to activity, so obviously you would increase them. So right off the bat, wages are going to go up 3 to 5. Other operating expenses are probably going to go up 6 to 8. Now you can start to pencil in and start to look at, okay, everything stays about the same. Where am I going to be at? So what changes if I'm not profitable do I have to make to get there? So one that you got to address, and it's a hard one right now, is pricing. So in years past, you pretty much could just, at least the last 2010 until 2023, you pretty much just go, okay, we'll increase prices 5, 10, 15, 20, 25% in some cases, and everything works out. You're fine. But the market's pushing back, so I look at my value proposition, make sure that I can justify the increase, because it's going to be really hard if wages are up 3 to 5%, operating expenses are up 8%, and you're not profitable, to magically become profitable. It's just not going to get there. So I got to look at what that entails, how much of a bump I potentially could get there. So that becomes kind of your base model, you might say. Like I said, even if I do it once, stick it in a drawer. That's not a lot of fun, but I want to know where I'm at. And hey, if I'm not profitable, I'm not planning on much growth, inflation's going to be there, I got to make some changes inside my business. I got to look at my salary cap. I got to look at what's available there and adjust my compensation side of the house in order to make that work. Now, if you move past that to having a little bit more fun, let's plan some modest growth. And if we plan modest growth, 5%, 10%, something like that. Once again, what does it look like after all of those costs? And then how much availability does that give me beyond my profit target to start reinvesting back into the business? So this is kind of that thing around, as we talked about, the budget versus the forecast. You put that plan together, then as that's actually happening, now it's like, okay, marketing team, you got a great idea. You can justify a great return on it. Here's an extra 50 grand. Go make it happen. Or, hey team, I know we've been running hot. We've been needing some additional help. We got an extra 100K now. Let's go make those hires. So you see the difference is you're hiring right at the curve or behind the curve of growth versus in advance, which is what we could get away with for many years, but the market's just so volatile right now. It's really hard to do it too far ahead of that curve. So that's the second part. It's kind of having that more fun, dynamic way. And then you adjust. Once a quarter, you need to look at that forecast and say, are we on track to hit it? If not, what changes do we need to make? So forth and so on. So at a high level, those are a couple things relative to forecasting that we typically recommend.
Yeah, awesome. Really love it. And another thing, we do with our clients, minimum target and stretch, sort of what Brandon is doing when we do our financial numbers with our clients and so on. Just like Brandon said, hey, where do we need to be at is that base level. And then, hey, here's if we got everything we wanted. That's our target. And then, hey, what if the market responds, it picks back up, and this becomes our stretch? And what you're doing is you're sort of setting those sort of trajectories of the business of going, hey, here is if we hit this revenue target, this is maybe what we're able to spend in labor. This is what maybe we'll be able to reinvest back in the business. And so looking at those various scenarios and reevaluating them on a quarterly basis, which is why with us on our clients, we require everyone to be on a minimum of some sort of quarterly engagement with us, simply because it allows us to revisit these things on a quarterly basis. And so I know we always talk about here is running your finance meetings and things like that. I know depending on the business, depending on the industry, you get away with it. We always want frequently is always great, but once a quarter, really reevaluating these things, that budget or that forecast that you want to look at and say, hey, are we on track? Are we not? And then how do we adjust fire from there? So that's really where we like that.
I would add too that, budgeting a profit or a loss, hopefully it's only a profit, is the first step. Now we need to budget what does the forecast what does the cash flow look like associated with this?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And that's the one that is kind of tricky that a lot of folks will miss. So let's say you're in a business that is experiencing strong growth, which is phenomenal. You have 30-day terms, which means you probably get paid somewhere between 45 and 70 days, depending upon the client or the customer. And you have an inventory requirement. So you have to either stock some type of good, or you're manufacturing and you got raw materials, or you're in service and you have to keep parts on hand, whatever it may be. Say you got some inventory requirement. Most of the time in that environment where you have AR and inventory, as your business grows, you're going to need capital. We call that trade capital. And we track that with all our clients. We look at it in terms of the dollar and what percentage it is of the rolling 12 revenue. And so as they put the plan together, the next step we can take then is we can put that into some of our modeling and we say, hey guys, that's a great plan. Do you have an extra $250,000? Well, no. Well, here's the problem. Come August, you're going to need another $250,000 to make this plan work as you grow. So then they can start working on either getting a lot of credit for that, reserving some capital from profitability, whatever it may be, in order to have enough capital to make that plan work. It's a sickening position to be in a place to where your business is growing and it's on fire, but you have to slow it down because you do not have the cash to enable that growth to continue. So keep that part in mind as well as you kind of look at 2025.
Yeah, great point. I would ask you about something too, bring up. I'm looking here at my LinkedIn post I made today. So head all over to my LinkedIn account and check out just my LinkedIn post on sales. And one of the things I wrote as my last bullet point on there for evaluating sort of your sales position going into the new year is looking at your core customers and sort of what is going on with them. When I do the 100 company model update with my clients, I'm sharing to them sort of, hey, this is what the market is feeling. So what is as you're planning for this next year, what is your customer base? What are your core customers experiencing in the market as well, and how to best sell to them, serve them, and do that? If you're in a world where, hey, you primarily serve an industry that could be struggling right now, have you accounted for that? How do you plan for that? Because it's one thing to plan for the numbers, and it's grandiose to even be like, oh, hey, we might just be flat this year because of, it's tough adding labor in the market. It's like, well, hey, maybe you make some adjustments based on what those are doing. So don't forget to evaluate those things as part of that planning of going, hey, core customers, sales process, your marketing process throughout that, because that could actually be affect the forecast and sort of that budgeting as well based on what's happening in those environments.
Yeah. But a goal without a plan is just a dream. And so like Mike said, you need to then take that plan and say, okay, how many leads do we have to make this work?
Mm-hmm.
How much do we have to close to make this work? How many people do we have to make this work? If we're in a declining marketplace, which there's likely some that are still going to experience decline in 2025, then where are my lines in the sand that if we continue to see margin dollars decline, that I take action and change my structure? You need to go ahead and commit to those now when it's not an emotional event. Because when the time comes, it's going to become an emotional event and you're going to delay the decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, hey, listen, we're working on keeping these more frequent and short. And so that that goes for me and Brandon here on our quick little update on forecasting and planning for the new year coming up. We'll be back shortly with some more episodes and some more content, but we appreciate you joining us today.
One last thing. If you're looking,
we're not done.
Go ahead. Yeah, I got a surprise for you.
Oh,
so if you are needing a little bit of help trying to look at 2025 and forecast it out, not only from a profit but also a cash flow perspective, so we've got a new offering. It's called our Fast Track Profit Session. We've taken our typical kind of planning session and really condensed it down so that it's a couple hours of time commitments, all it takes from you. So we've got that available. Also, if you want the full enchilada, the entire session, we've got a 20% discount on those that will last until the end of November. So just make sure you mention you heard it on the podcast. We'll be more than happy to take care of that. And contact myself or Mike, and we'll be happy to get the ball rolling on that.
Hey, someone actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Someone actually took advantage of that the other day. So we hooked them up. And then I totally forgot we said it last time. So he goes, "Oh, I was listening to your podcast. You guys said it." We said, "Did I say that?" He goes, "Oh, it's Brandon." Okay, that's good.
So Mike says so many things that he forgets what he says, so just remind him.
That's right. Well, awesome. Well, hey, everyone, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business, or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. The views expressed on Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, are those of the presenter and moderator and do not necessarily reflect the views of CRI Simple Numbers or the CRI family of companies. This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace professional advice received directly. Consult with your CRI Simple Numbers advisor or another trusted professional if you have questions about your specific situation.